Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsey. Today I'm excited to be sharing with you my first alternative project using the Sweet Sunflowers Paper Pumpkin Kit from August 2022. This fun kit created 9 cards, 3 in 3 different designs, and I do share an unboxing video as well as in that same video I create these original cards. And you can check out that video through my playlist, and I'll link it up here in the top right corner. This kit also came with these beautiful envelopes, so I did want to make sure that I share those with you as well. And what I like to do is take the contents of the kit and create my own alternative cards. So today I'll be sharing with you how I created these 2 beautiful cards from one of the card bases. And the card base that we're going to be using is this one here. I do just want to quickly mention that the next 3 months for Paper Pumpkin are going to be holiday themed. So this is September's, and then we have October and November here. So September is going to be Halloween treat boxes, and then we've got winter Christmas feels for the October-November kits. So if you're interested in getting these seasonal paper pumpkin kits, then make sure to subscribe, and a link to subscribe is below in the description. If you are new to my channel and want to see more of my videos, click on the subscribe button and then the bell for notifications. I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and help you with any of your paper crafting needs. To purchase any of the products you see me use today, or to subscribe to Paper Pumpkin, please use the links in the description below. So I'm going to begin with this card here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the card base. This card uses the back side, and then the front is going to be used on our second card. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the back of the card base from the front. And you can cut right along the score line, or you can cut it to the dimensions I want, which will be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Start with the 4 inches and then rotate to 5 1/4. And then I'll just put this off to the side and we'll come back and cut that for card number 2 later. So the next thing I'm going to do is take one of the gold foil honeycomb sheets that came in the kit, and I'm going to create an organic shape. And I want to actually start cutting it in one of the corners, and you can just do it at an angle or straight, and then just kind of be really organic with it. Let it have a fun shape to it. Doesn't need to be perfect or a certain size. It can be small on some sides and bigger on the other. So this is what I've got. We are going to save this piece for some other elements for today. So just something easy, and you're just going to add that to the background. I'm going to add it with a little adhesive right to the center. And I'm just going to place some adhesive and then add that right on top. So you'll get something that looks like this. Then I'm going to take some ribbon, and this ribbon did not come in the kit. This is just something I have in my craft room. It is the Natural Finish ribbon. So it comes on a nice big roll. So if you are interested in getting this ribbon, you can order it through me. And you can see all of the supplies that I'm using. I will post those on my blog, and that link is also below in the description. So what I'm doing is I'm using my grid paper to find the center. And then attaching that to the back and just making sure it goes right across the back, right straight in the front, just like that. And if I wanted to add a little adhesive underneath there, I can do that too, just to kind of hold that down. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of tear and tape right across the center. because I know I'm going to cover that up with my flower. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take the gold foil sheet and we're going to just remove one of these edges, and that's going to give us a nice thin strip. And I'm just kind of cutting it actually a little bit on the inside, or you can just go ahead and cut off all these little pieces here. So either one, doesn't need to be perfect. You can try also using your paper trimmer. That works as well. You just want to, sometimes when I was using my paper trimmer, I got a little bit of the honeycomb still on my strip, kind of like I did right there. And you just want to go in and make sure you trim it so it feels a little straight. And then that's going to go on the center of my card. Just like that. Then I'm going to take some small glue dots, and these are from past kits, past paper pumpkin kits, and I'm just going to add that to the edges just to help hold this down. And I was going to mention you could use any coordinating ribbon here in the center if you don't have that natural finish ribbon. So the next thing we're going to do is stamp our sunflower and some leaves, and I'm going to share with you a fun watercolor technique. So you're going to go ahead and grab your sunflower and your leaves, and you're going to pick out some colors that you want to use. I am going to use the crushed curry and a green. And I'm going to do two different greens actually. I'm going to do Mossy Meadow and then Evening Evergreen. So let's start with our flower. So you're going to actually place the flower on your clear block upside down so that you have the flat side is on the top. And then take your Stampin' Spot and add just a little bit of color. It doesn't need to be totally covered. And then you're going to take something to mist it. So I've got my Stampin' Spritzer, and I'm actually just going to do this off camera. And I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to spritz it a couple times to get some water on my ink. I'm going to add just a little more ink. Okay. So you can see how that creates some little puddles of water. And then you'll just take this, and I kind of start by just tapping it first. I don't just press it down, and then I can see if I have maybe more ink on one side than another, and I can kind of rotate around and get some ink in that area. So I kind of want a little more ink right there in the center. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little more ink, add a little more water, and then kind of plop that down. So I just wanted it to be a little lighter in the center. I liked the different layers of color and how some areas are darker and some are lighter. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I'm going to do the same thing with my leaf. So I'm going to flip it over and place it so that the flat end or the flat side of my stamp is showing. So that's the side I'm going to ink up. I'm going to start with my Mossy Meadow and ink that up. And then just like before, spritz it with some water just like this. And that's going to add some, make it kind of puddly. And then just the same, kind of just tap it onto your paper until you get enough on there for good coverage of the stamp, because we are going to be stamping the image on top once it's dry. So before I started the video, I did do one already, so it had time to dry. So I've got the crushed curry and the Mossy Meadow. I have cleaned my stamps and flipped them over, and I'm just going to go ahead now and ink it up in the crushed curry. So this is the sunflower stamp. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that in the center of a dry ink. So you want to make sure it's dry. If it's wet, you're going to get some bleeding. And I do want to do the twist technique here. So I'm going to go ahead, ink it up again. And then I'm going to stamp again. Make sure it's not the same way. So I get a nice full sunflower. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my leaf. And this time I'm using Evening Evergreen ink. I like that it's a little darker than the Mossy Meadow, so it stands out nicely against that watercolor wash. So the last thing I want to stamp is the inside of my sunflower, and I am going to stamp that in soft suede and use the Stampin' Spot that came in the kit. And I'm just going to add that right to the center. So just like this. So now what I'm going to do is, for my card, I need to have 1 sunflower and 3 leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these out. I have already done 2 other leaves, so I'm ready for my card once I'm done fussy cutting these. So to fussy cut, you're just going to follow along the edge that you've created with your stamp. So every time it's going to be different because we have that twist technique, which is really fun. So you'll see as I'm cutting that I don't move my scissors too much, but I am moving my paper to get in between all those little petals. It's not too difficult, and you don't need to be too fussy with it, because it's pretty forgiving. So now the sunflower is all cut out, and we're going to do the leaf next. Okay, so you'll want to do 1 sunflower and 3 leaves, and then we're going to go ahead and add these to our card. And you can use the dimensionals that came in the kit, or if you have some others on hand, you can use those too. I'm just adding some mini dimensionals to the back here of my sunflower. I'm going to place that right in the center, and then I'm going to do some dimensionals to the back of the leaves as well. And I'm just going to take one, add it to the left, and then the other 2 go on the right side. And then I did want to add some fun splattering to my card. So I'm going to bring in my scratch paper again, and I'm going to use a soft suede Stampin' Write marker. You can also do this with a water painter and some ink. And so to do this, you're just going to take your fat tip brush and your lid, and you're just going to flick it, start inside the lid and flick it out. And you just get some really fine mist splatter, which is what I want for this card. Sometimes when you use a water painter, you get a little thicker, like bigger droplets, and this just gives you a really nice fine mist. So I love that look. And then we're going to stamp our greeting, and I've got a strip here that is 1 1/4 inches, and I cut it to about 2 1/4 inches, but we're going to trim it down some more. So I'm inking up my greeting with the soft suede ink spot. And then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and I'm going to trim about a 1/2 inch. So there's about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the greeting to the edge. And then I'm going to find the center, which I think is about there. And I'm going to cut up just a little bit. So I've got a center cut, And that's maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so. And then I'm going to go from the corner to the top of that cut, and it's going to give me a nice banner shape for the bottom of my greeting. And I can add that with some dimensionals. And place that to the left of my sunflower, just like that. And then I also added some of these cute little bees in the background. So let's do that. I've got a clear block here. Add a couple of the bumblebees and the soft suede ink again. I think I might just change up the location of those bees just a little bit. Let's do one more, maybe up at the top. Maybe something like that. You can play around with it. The first one I did it more to the right side, and this time I did it a little more to the left. So next I'm going to go ahead and add that to my card base. I've got a card base of creme cake cardstock, and it's just your regular size, which is 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. Just going to add a little adhesive to the back, and that just goes right in the center. And that card is all done. So let's go ahead and do card number 2. Okay, so for card number 2, I'm going to cut down the front of my card base to be 3.5 by 4 inches. So 4 inches is this longer side here. So let's just start by maybe trimming close to the flower on top. So you can see here that I made a cut really close to that. And then rotating, and then I'll measure it up at 3.5 inches. And then here on the right side, I'm going to trim down so it's nice and tight to that leaf, and then cut to 4 inches. So I'm going to be cutting off some of the leaf here on the left. So you'll get something that looks like this. So next I'm going to take some of the gold foil honeycomb sheets, and I'm going to trim them. So this is the one that I just did for my first card, and I'm going to again trim off the long edge here. So I've got that piece all done. So then I'm going to take another piece, and this is actually a leftover piece from a future alternative card that I will share in a couple days. I just wanted to use it up since it was left over, but it's about 1.5 inches from, so this is like the short edge. So the long edge would be this way, and I've just got a little bit left over. So if you want to go ahead and use a full sheet and only use about 1.5 inches, and then save that other piece for an upcoming alternative card. So what I'm going to do is use my paper trimmer, and I'm going to be really careful, but I want to trim. I only need about 1/2 inch or so of this pattern. So just line up the top edge. Maybe let's just go with a little bigger than 1/2 inch, just so that way, yeah, you just got to be so careful with these. I'm just going to use my scissors. So I'm going to go 2 full hexagons over and just cut right along the center of one of these. I'll give you a close-up. It's just so delicate. Using your paper trimmer can be a little bit scary. So do you see how I have 2 full hexagons? And then I'll do the same here. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and then maybe over here. So like I said, it's a little bigger than 1/2 inch. So you'll get something that looks like this. And then you can always save these little edges for some accent pieces like this one. So now I want to trim this down so it's a little smaller than the 3.5 inches. So I think I'm just going to trim it right here in the center of that one, and then rotate and do the center of that. And then you want to have them be about the same. So this is, where did it go? So it's about 1, 2, 3.25 inches, just shy of 3.25. So I think I might just stack these on top, so that way I get the same size. Okay. And they don't need to be perfect. They can be a little bit different. So then we're going to rotate this over, add a little bit of adhesive to the back on those sides where we're going to attach this. And then again, use your grid paper. And then just add this. And you're going to place it maybe about 1/4 inch or so. Maybe a little bigger. Just kind of get an idea of how it looks on your paper. And you want to make sure that it's nice and straight too. And then rotate your other one and do the exact same thing. Okay, so you'll just get a little bit of that detail coming out on the sides. So before I add this piece to my card base, I want to show you that I do have a little bit of splattering on the card base for this as well. So go ahead and get another crumb cake card base and a little bit of your soft suede marker, and you'll just splatter that again. Okay. Just in some of the corners. And then you'll take your piece that we just cut, and you're going to add this to the left side. And I did about 1/4 inch from the top. So I do want it to be a little bigger at the bottom than the top. And I did it this way so that I could line up this edge with my card base. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, so now we're just going to start adding some of our pieces. I'm going to start with this gold strip that we cut, and that just goes right across the bottom like that. And then I did do the exact same technique that I just shared with you, and I'm going to add my flower right into that center. And then just for a little more depth, I'm going to add 2 leaves right over the other leaves. So something like that. And I did the exact same technique, that watercolor wash in the background for those. I'm going to use the yellow and pink label, and I wanted to use the hello greeting for this card. So I'm going to add that to a clear block and ink it with my soft suede. And then stamp that right in the center. And then that's going to get popped up with dimensionals too. And I didn't mention, but I did pop those other elements up with dimensionals. And this is just going to go in between the leaves off to the side. And if you want to tuck it in a little bit, you can. So something like that. And then I've got my bees, and I've placed these on glue dots. And I'm just going to pop those on around the flowers. I'm going to put this one a little lower, closer to my greeting. And then you can kind of pop up those wings if you want, so that they have a little bit of dimension. Okay, so both of my cards from one card base are all done. And I do want to mention that for this one, you'll notice that I flip-flopped the pink and the yellow. So this one, the pink is on the top, and this one's the pink is on the bottom. And I think either of those will work for your card. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create these 2 fun alternative cards using the August 2022 Paper Pumpkin Kit. If you are interested in seeing written instructions or close-up images of how to create these cards, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. If you would like to subscribe to get your own Paper Pumpkin Kit, please use the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.